you cried because cashiers wanted to get a living wage, and now you're the cashier. You're walking in, you're either using a scan and go or you're using the self-checkout. So now those salaries aren't even there anymore. Those jobs have been replaced by you and I doing their job.
And I'm pretty
Yeah.
pissed that I didn't get a Christmas party this year from that. Just so
Oh,
you know.
yeah, damn it, Sam's Club. Scan and go. I need a Christmas party.
I want my Christmas party. I'm an employee. If I have to scan my own shit, right, so that you can make money, then I deserve to be a part of that Christmas party. And I should have gotten my invite to the Christmas party.
Hi, welcome to the TOWTalk Podcast. My name is Denise, and I'm here with Neil. And in this session, we're going to go over a couple of news articles. We're going to start locally in the town. Then we're going to talk about an issue happening with regard to Amazon in the county. And then we're going to move on to the daycare center story coming from Minnesota and now how it affects us here in the state and locally. So to start with, we're going to talk about, and we've mentioned this here before, we had a large theft of about $400,000 worth of taxpayer funds by a auditor by the name of I hope I don't mess his name up. Tobias Oteneo. I think it's close enough. Neil has some updated information that I was shocked to hear. So tell us what's going on.
It's not updated. The district attorney in Orange County, Dave Hoover, still has not indicted him. So there's still no indictment. So once again, the district attorney is, again, dragging his feet and, not looking out for the best interest of the town of Waco residents. He did the same thing with, the murder, 20 years ago of Megan McDonald, where he dragged his feet on this, and now he's dragging his feet again on this stolen money case, and again, why is he doing it? Because, the town of Waco, the representatives of the town, the supervisor on downward, they've made a lot of contradictory statements, about what actually happened.
So is this more like there's an ongoing investigation? Um,
Who knows?
we don't.
At this point in time, it's sort of like it's been 6 months. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, and is
Either we're
he
going to
still
indict the
being?
guy or we're not going to indict the guy. Either somebody did something wrong or nobody did anything wrong. Where do we stand with this? And at what point in time do our local officials put pressure on the DA's office to say we need accountability?
Right. Let
You
me
know?
ask you a question. Is he still being held in jail?
No, he never was.
So was he out on bail or was he just released
No bail.
pending further investigation?
Released pending the indictment.
Wow.
He hasn't been indicted. You can't keep somebody in
He
jail.
could
if
have
they
left
haven't
the
been
country
indicted.
by now, for all we know.
He's not. I know.
I
where
mean,
he is.
I don't think he is, but it's interesting that it's taking this long. But then maybe that ties into the fact that we don't have any real clean books. Obviously, we'd be able to see this more clearly if our books were in order. So this is probably going to have to be handled partially by Frank and his team going in there and breaking open the books and really quantifying what's been stolen, when it was stolen, how many withdrawals were made over the period of time that Tobias is being accused of making those withdrawals. So, but the longer it goes without an indictment, I mean, the less chance there's going to be that an indictment will even happen and will end whether or not we'll be able to recover those funds. What do you think?
Listen, there's so much that needs to be talked about, discussed, made public. To be honest, you just can't trust any of the information that the local government released. And that's the sad part, is that they've gone out of their way to mislead the public at every turn on everything, and so therefore it's gonna, remember the 2023 books, which is when the theft had started, haven't been closed yet. Bank reconciliations haven't been done.
Yeah.
Oh, right? Like, so the idea being you don't know what you don't know. And this has been going on too long and it needs to just come to an end. Hopefully Frank will get to the end of this thing. But the next thing to bring up, that sort of dovetails that into the next thing, which is the Amazon warehouse. We found out that Amazon was granted by New York State a fire safety variance, right? Related to the lithium battery issue, which, believe it or not, is the main issue of the warehouse, right? It's not
Yes.
just the height, right? It's the lithium battery, and that the New York State gave them a variance, right, on the fire safety related to the batteries. Very interesting. And it
But it's interesting because it's an $80 million variance, which is that's just about equal to the tax break that they didn't get from the IDA.
but you're equating both together, right? You're equating that one was in substitution of the other. They were both
No, I'm
together.
not saying that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
coincidentally. It's
They were
interesting.
they were both together, so they were getting 2 $80 million, right, tax benefits, right? One was related to the fire suppression, and the lithium battery, and the other one was related to the IDA. So they were getting $160 million in breaks.
Now, I've got more specs on this warehouse that they want to build.
Okay.
It's supposed to be on McVeigh Road, which is I didn't realize that was town of Wayanda over there, because it seems to be like it's part of the city of Middletown, but it actually isn't. This is a road that runs under I-84 between Dolsontown Road, off of Dolsontown Road, and that route that heads into New Hampton over by Soons, whatever that road is.
Route
And
6.
not Route 6, off of
Oh,
Route
17,
6.
is it 17M? Not 17. Oh, no,
Not se
17,
it's
no.
not 17M Route 6, it's like if you were to turn off to go to Soons,
Oh,
if you
that
go
oh, yeah, I know the road.
back
Yeah, yeah.
across towards New Hampton, and
Yep.
there's a restaurant over there. So, it's in between those roads. It's, 3,000,000 square feet, one of the largest warehouses, it'll be one of the largest warehouses in the state, estimated to be, 5 stories high. So, there's been issues with the height because there's supposed to be I guess, a zoning, height limitation, and so they've broken through that. And just as we have said many times here on the podcast, this is going to be mostly automated with robotics and AI running things. And I guess that's where the batteries come into play. I guess a lot of these robots run off of these lithium batteries. And it just coincidentally in Warwick, they recently had a fire, a lithium battery fire at one of their electrical facilities. And so there's a concern, like if the batteries start burning, and this is such a huge facility and you've got so many of these robots running around with them, you could have a major fire. You're talking about chemicals being thrown into the air. So getting a fire variance, so this first of all, let's explain to the audience, if you can, explain what a fire variance is and what it means.
So within your town code, within your local code, town code, and within state code, okay, there are various restrictions on certain ways to build, certain things that you can have in your facility, right? Every type of building, there are zoning codes that regulate how high it could be, what you could have in it, those type of things. And if you want to change any of that, you need a variance, right? A lot of times you'll go in front of your zoning board and your zoning board will have to issue zoning variances for like height, batteries, like those type of things, if it's in the code, right? If it's in the state code and not in your local town code, then you go to the state for the variance. If it's in your local town code, then you need to go to the town for the variance. So like the The Amazon warehouse went before the town of Wawayanda zoning board to get a height variance. They were not granted the height variance by the zoning board. Okay, so then they went back to the planning board and asked for an exception, right? And the planning board gave them that exception. Okay, so this is what happens in your local municipalities, and this is why it's important to understand how these people get in office and who does what in your local municipality. Most of the development in your town is done by your local planning board, not your town board. Okay, so and then having proper zoning laws is what prevents certain undesirable things that may come into your community, and putting together, you know, in your local master plan, right, zoning codes that assist you to the way the public wants things, is the way to do it. Now, this is what my personal opinion is you had a town supervisor that was actively for the Amazon warehouse. She was overwhelmingly reelected based on that platform, right? I mean,
Okay, so people want it.
there was a clear divisive issue, right, in that community. And listen, whether everybody was aware of it, whether people just decided to vote the way they always vote, I don't know, but there was clearly an issue, and the majority of the people did not did not consider the Amazon warehouse to be an issue. So people may not like me saying that, right? Because of all the protests, and that there is a very vocal minority who are against the warehouse. Not only in the Wawayanda community, but outside the Wawayanda community. There are also people who are for the warehouse, but are against the tax incentives and against the government contributing towards the building of a warehouse for one of the richest companies in the world, right?
Exactly.
So pick your side. Like, I mean, it's fine. You don't have to necessarily be anti-warehouse to say one of the richest companies in the world shouldn't get a tax break. I mean, both could be true.
Well,
So,
that's ultimately what helps them get richer is getting these tax breaks across the board for this, that, the other thing. Um, and who ends up subsidizing it? It's us. So when you think about it, our federal tax dollars help these corporations, our state tax dollars help these corporations, and now our local tax dollars and property tax dollars go into that. By giving them a break, our property tax dollars might be bumped a little bit. Even if it's just a few bucks, it's across the board.
well,
But my oh, go
these
ahead.
companies utilize town resources, they utilize roads, they utilize all these other things. They should pay taxes. End of story, right? I don't understand this idea that you're gonna take one of the richest companies in the world and say that they should or deserve any type of tax break, you know? I mean, right, we talk about small business. Amazon is not a small business that needs our help. They don't need our help. They don't need anybody's help. They can do whatever they want, and that's why I say, right, like, you could be for the Amazon warehouse, but not for the tax breaks, right? Like, people think that if you're for the Amazon warehouse, you have to be for the tax breaks, right? It it doesn't
No,
have to be the case. Both don't have to be true, right? Like, we have to start understanding where people are coming from, you know? And I
yeah.
think most of the
Enough with
people are
this
for the
corporate welfare.
right. I think a lot of people are for the Amazon warehouse, right? I just think that most people are against giving them a tax break to get it. And that needs to be clarified in a real way, you know? You could be against the warehouse altogether, right? You
Well,
could
it's
and
going
you
to
could
be
be
an eyesore.
for it. That's a completely separate issue than the taxes, and I really hate the idea that you have groups, especially these wealthy people saying, "Well, if you're not for tax breaks, then you're not for the project, and you're not for development, and you're not for bringing jobs to your community."
What
It's
jobs?
well,
You know?
we can get into that if you wanna get into
Yeah.
that. They're
Well, I
right? I
actually have
mean,
another question I wanted to ask with regard to this fire variance. Does does this variance mean that certain fire restrictions are being lifted or lightened up for Amazon? Is that what that means? In other words, where another company would have to comply with certain restrictions, this variance gives them a break on those restrictions.
it supposedly, and again, nothing has come out about this, but supposedly, if a variance is given on one thing, they're supposed to put in mitigating, right, other things, right? Other things are supposed to go into it, right? That allow for whatever it is, right, to happen. So in this case, they're being told, well, you don't have to have X, Y, and Z, right? But we don't know what things they were told they have to do to ensure so that they don't have to do X, Y, and Z. And that's pretty common. I'm gonna say that's pretty common with every development project where, they say, "Listen, we don't wanna do X, Y, and Z. We feel that X, Y, and Z is too cost isn't cost effective for us. We would like to do ABC." Okay? We haven't been informed as to what the ABC is in this instance, right? So, which is concerning because you don't know if ABC really does mitigate the XYZ, right? I mean, that's the crux of the issue is why aren't they releasing, okay, this is our fire safety plan for not only the facility but the entire community to ensure that we have the ability to handle if a fire does break out at the facility. Now, maybe the zoning board has that, maybe the planning board has that. I would assume the planning board has to have that information, you know? I haven't seen it. I'm not gonna say it doesn't exist. I'm not gonna say it wasn't released. I don't have that information, so I don't know. And I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Yeah, so that's just interesting. But yeah, so yeah, getting back to the jobs. I mean, obviously there'll be temporary jobs in constructing the facility. Um, but the warehouse itself is supposed to be mostly automated. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have a handful of people working there, but in the end, it's not going to be manned by dozens of warehouse workers and the like warehouse
So
workers.
I
Or yeah, go
so
ahead, go
believe it
ahead.
or not, I've had this argument. I actually had
Okay,
this argument. So when I was a councilman and, I can't remember the project I was arguing against, right? It was very similar to this where the jobs weren't gonna be created and the IDA was looking to give, one of their tax breaks, and I was arguing with a politician, and I can't remember whether it was state or federal politician about jobs, and they flat out told me that all jobs are temporary. Because I said the same thing, like, a construction job is not a permanent job, and they said all jobs are temporary.
including the ones that are supposed to be created by the business that's being built. Think about that.
Uh, and this was a Democratic politician, right? So, again, I'm gonna go with, right, this is the mentality of your politicians, okay? They don't look at you as a permanent employee somewhere. Your job is temporary to them, right? They view every job as temporary, and so the idea being is they're not looking for permanent solutions. They're looking at what's going to get them elected, okay,
They're looking at the next
in
election.
2 years or 4 years or wherever many years they're running for reelection again. That's what they're looking for. So, if they can create the jobs today, they don't care if the jobs exist tomorrow, okay? Again, I go with the incentive structure. The incentive structure is they just wanna get elected at in their next election cycle. They don't give a shit about the future of the economy, of the local community, of all they care about are themselves, and that's what we need to break. That's what we need to fix, you know? And there really is no long-term solution for fixing that because that's the way as long as we have the money in politics the way we do, as long as we have the things that we have, that is never going to be fixed because the incentive structure is that politicians, all they care about is getting reelected in 2 years. That's it.
Yeah. So we pay them to campaign for their next election, which is the whole reason why we need, term limits, so that when they get in, they understand they have to work their asses off, um, and then they're done after
That's just holding them
what
it's holding them
holding them
accountable. It's
accountable.
like I heard there was talk today, believe it or not, I saw a video today about California, and California was apparently, Gavin Newsom, when he ran for election the first time, he said that he was going to put in place a Medicare for all
I saw
in
this, yeah.
California, right? Yeah, so it's this idea that 8 years later, they haven't even moved the ball. Right? There's been no proposals, there's been nothing. It's literally all talk to placate their base, in an effort to get elected, and then when they get elected, they don't even talk about it. They don't try to push it, they don't do anything. And, I recently saw, an old episode of The West Wing, right, which I'm a big fan of, and I understand, people will tell me that's just a liberal TV show. But it was interesting because there was, this thing about where you had a Democratic president and he slapped down a Democratic group, right, a group that's generally supports Democrats, and they basically said, well, who else are they going to vote for? If your idea is that you're going to cater to your base, or you're going to sit there and play lip service to your base, right, in an effort to get their vote, and then turn around and move to the right and say fuck you, right, then you don't deserve their vote in the first place. And I'm sorry, then you should welcome a challenge from the left. And you should say, my views are the views of the majority of people, and you should run on that. Instead of running, to your left in a primary and saying you're going to do, or to get elected, that you're going to do these wonderful things, and then all of a sudden turn around and say, screw you, you know? And I give Donnie a lot of credit because, his speech that he gave, his inauguration speech, I mean, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was, I saw it.
for the first time in a long time, I actually had hope. I had hope listening to a politician talk, and it's been a long time since I've actually heard that, and what did he do? His first couple of days his first day in office, he signed executive orders on housing, and his main focus, and he visited a um a housing complex with a slumlord. He's actually, you know, the one thing he said which really resonated with me, the idea of, you know, making promises and setting low expectations, that day is over. The time is that we should have higher expectations for our politicians to do what they say that they're going to do. And that's where I am, you know. It's about time, you know, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, watch your back because people are coming.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm telling you right now, I'll be supporting whoever runs against those 2 people
yeah, me too.
because I've had enough. I've really just had enough of the lip service and the do nothing.
Do nothing. Yeah, catering to their PAC payers, to their donor money. That's what they're really, again, I don't know how many times we've said this, just how we have to get big money and corporate money out of politics. We don't have real politicians representing us because they are beholding to their big corporate donors. Never mind the fact that we, as the public, also put money in. Okay, so we don't put in billions of dollars in a single payment, but we definitely contribute to these people, and they turn their backs on us and go straight with what the corporate PAC donors want.
And You don't need to go further than this Amazon warehouse, right? Amazon being the richest corporation in the world, right? They will be using our roads, they'll be using our water, they'll be using our sewer, they'll be using all these resources, and they say, "Well, we don't want to pay taxes. We don't want to contribute. You should do that as a community because we're providing jobs," right? Like that's the mentality that the wealthy have, right? I mean, how many tax breaks have we given to the wealthy, right? Because we were told they're job creators. Okay. We had all those tax breaks in the 80s, then in the 90s, and then we had then we had the you know, the
Breaks for
death
the rich.
tax, right? The death tax was eliminated. The capital gains tax was pretty much neutered, right? We don't tax, the CEOs benefit packages anymore, right? Like we've gone out of our way not to tax the wealthy, right? Because we are told, oh, they are job creators. Okay. In the big beautiful bill, there was hundreds of millions of dollars of tax breaks, if not $1 billion in tax breaks, right, for the wealthy.
Well, there's
Okay.
there's we're talking trillions for the
Yeah,
wealthy
trillions of dollars in tax breaks for the
with a
wealthy.
T.
Okay. All right. Being told, well, they're job creators. Where are the jobs? All right.
Well,
I've been waiting
that's
for this.
ChatGPT's got your job, AI's got your
Where,
job, robots got your
right.
job.
Right. What they're saying is they are being given tax breaks, right, to steal our jobs, to basically so that we can be fired, right? And the whole idea is to extract as much wealth from us, right? Us,
Yes.
right, as they can. They're we've given them all these tax breaks, and all they continue to say is well, we're job creators. Meanwhile, they're hoarding wealth. Okay. And I tried to explain this to somebody, right? It's not like there's unlimited amounts of money out there. Anybody who's read Paul Krugman knows, right? There is not an unlimited amount of money. There is a limited amount of money, right? I will equate this. You have 10 friends, right? Each friend has $10. That's $100 altogether, right? If one person accumulates $99, okay, and decides to hoard that money, then the other 9 people have to split $1, okay? There is no wealth for anybody else, okay? And that's really like that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And now you have Jeff Bezos doing it again, right? With this another Amazon warehouse coming into our community and saying, we want to use your roads, we want your water, we want your sewer, we want all your resources, right? For a
Electric.
couple of temporary jobs that will go away, right? And we don't want to pay any taxes or contribute to your community at all. We want the wealth. We want to extract the wealth from your community. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think we need to put this in the frame of that if they're not paying those taxes, but they are creating those bills by damaging your roads, utilizing your water and sewer, putting a strain on that, putting a strain on your electrical grid. Someone has to pick up those bills. Guess who does? It's you and me. So tell me
And
how
now
that's fair.
Right. And then you had, Gavin Newsom mentioned a wealth tax. There's been a wealth tax popping around California. And Peter Thiel, who lives in California, who we've talked about on this show, is one of those wealthy oligarchs, right? Billionaires, right? He said and they were only talking 1%. 1%. Okay.
1%.
And he said,
Drop in
I'll
the
move
bucket.
out of the state. I'm not paying 1%. Our
Keep
taxes
going.
went up. Our taxes went up more than 1% this past year.
Yes.
Okay. You look at any of your tax bills, you look at any of the money you have to pay, it went up more than 1%, right?
Well more.
This guy is such a snowflake, right? He's such a snowflake that 1% is running him out of the state. Fuck you. I'm not paying that. All right. And he has the money. He can go wherever the hell he wants, right?
You know what?
But this idea,
Go back to your fucking country. Go back to South Africa.
these people like have this idea that they don't want to contribute anything, right? Like, so you have a bunch of selfish people who've accumulated an abundance of wealth, right? Billions of dollars of wealth. They're now hoarding that wealth. They want more of that wealth, right? And the only way to get more, right, is basically to get it from us.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's where they got it to begin with.
Right.
A
So now
a lot of it got from tax breaks.
Right. So now they're just accumulating more at our expense. And this isn't me, class warfare or anything like that. You could scream that to bloody murder. They've already declared class warfare, right? When they go around saying, I am not paying a wealth tax, I am not paying 1% more, right? Now you got to keep in mind, these people have an effective tax rate of less than 13%. It's 0 to 13%. Your effective tax rate in this country is 40%. And they are basically saying, more. We do not have these percentages don't equate. I'm not paying 1 penny more. And they're saying that we don't care if your roads go to shit. We don't care about you, because all that matters is us. We are the job creator.
That are taking away your jobs. So this is the conundrum we're in right now. And you know what? This goes back to your vote really fucking matters. These people have been getting tax breaks for decades, back to Reagan, and they've gotten richer and richer and richer, and our incomes have stagnated. Think about this. I mean, we're going off topic here, and so maybe we'll do the next subject in another episode. But I want to point this out because all I ever hear about from people that I know and people on the right when let's talk about the minimum wage. Minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2009. And before that, I think it got a bump in 2008 when
No, that's the state minimum wage. Federal minimum wage is since the 80s.
The federal
minimum wage hasn't changed. Still like $7 and whatever change.
No, that's what I'm saying. When Obama came in, he got it up to 7.25. I think it was 375 or 325 before that.
That was
since 2000.
Yeah.
That's since
right,
2009.
Right. Yeah, yes.
Imagine not. So just so you people understand, because people have talked about, people like Bernie Sanders, AOC have talked about bringing the minimum wage up to $15, and now it should be higher because that was going back 5 years ago. And I remember all my friends on the right saying, oh, I don't want to pay $15, see people getting $15 an hour to flip burgers. Why the fuck not? Because just so you understand, the minimum wage is a baseline upon which all other wages can be weighed against. So if somebody in an unskilled laborist job gets a minimum of $15 an hour, those of you who have skills and careers should be getting more than you're getting right now. That's the whole idea. That's how these people maintain their wealth, is by keeping the masses poor or below minimum wage. I mean, our minimum wage, I mean, middle class. Like, our middle class is shrinking. We're disappearing. And we're being burdened with all of these taxes. Tariffs haven't done anything. I'm just so tired. Of listening to my friends somehow beat themselves down because Bernie Sanders wants to see the minimum wage increase. It would have a positive effect on all other wages for other types of jobs above them. Do you agree to it?
It's because people don't understand economics, and they don't understand how the government works. Right? So what ends up happening is somebody makes that $7 an hour, right? Well, they can't afford to live. And not only that puts them at poverty wages. Poverty wages mean that you're going to end up on benefits. Walmart is the biggest food stamp recipient or SNAP recipient is Walmart. right? You can talk about it's the people who work for Walmart, and it's because Walmart refuses to pay a living wage, right? So what ends up happening is all these people end up suffering, and we end up paying, right, to supplement Walmart, one of the richest companies in the world, right? This isn't an idea of we don't want to pay more for a burger. You're already paying more for that burger, right? It just happens to be the way you're paying for it, right? Because it's going through your taxes and it's all this corporate welfare, and you don't see that. So because you don't see it, somehow it doesn't exist, but it's there, right?
Thank you.
And and I'm sorry, we just have to people have to come to the table and understand how their taxes are actually being used for, right? And instead of complaining, right, that somebody who's on Snap, owns a phone, right, which is a ridiculous to begin with, that I have to hear that argument, right? Oh, well, that person was on Snap and they had an iPhone. Instead of having that argument, why not have the argument that the company that individual works for pays more money to their employees so that individual is not on Snap anymore? Why not put the blame where the blame should be? On the companies that are extracting wealth from work. Remember, wealth is created from workers, from work, right? It is not created out of thin air by the company. The employees create the wealth.
Exactly. I say that all the time. And they don't get it. They don't get it. These people
No,
don't
they
get it.
don't get it at all
They feel
because
it's
they listen to
better to
Fox
beat
News.
those people down. Yeah, who beats down the working class.
Right,
Constantly beats down the working class. You are the working class, and you're beating other people like you down for
right.
what for them wanting to have a better wage.
It it
It's
it's it's crazy. It's this idea that somehow if you're a business or you're an owner of a business, that somehow and you have these billions of dollars, that's a virtue, that you're virtuous. You know, these people are. I mean, these many of these are now pedophiles. We now know them to be pedophiles, right? And they've been running pedophile rings, right? Like, I
it's the
mean,
money.
like, it's absolutely nuts that the individuals that we seem to idolize and put on pedestals, right? And that we want to say are good leaders, right? These people are the worst people in the world, right? And we've gone through this before. We went through this in the fucking 20s,
Yeah,
right? When they
look
destroyed
how
the
that
fucking
ended.
economy. When they
That did
destroyed the economy, it led us to the Great Depression, which we're headed into another Great Depression thanks to these idiots.
I think it could end up being worse because at least in the case of the Great Depression, there, when the New Deal came about, it created jobs. It created millions of jobs and put America back to work. And now those jobs, like we keep talking about, keep telling you, AI is here. It's happening. It's already happening. People's jobs are already being replaced through OpenAI, ChatGPT, ChatSmith, whatever the fuck it is. Those jobs are replacing clerical workers. They're replacing. I mean, you look like cashiers. You cried because cashiers wanted to get a living wage, and now you're the cashier. You're walking in. You're either using a scan and go, or you're going out and using the self checkout. So now those salaries aren't even there anymore. Those jobs have been replaced by you and I doing their job.
And I'm pretty
Yeah,
pissed that I didn't get a Christmas party this year from that. Just so you know.
you- yeah, damn it, Sam's Club. Scan and go. I need a Christmas party.
I want my Christmas party. I'm an employee. If I have to scan my own shit, right, so that you can make money, then I deserve to be a part of that Christmas party. And I should have gotten my invite to the Christmas party.
Yeah, seriously. No, I would rather see those cashiers come back to work, get a job, be paid a real wage. Shouldn't be 15, it should be 17, 18 bucks an hour by now minimum. Just so you know, last I checked in Canada, they also have a minimum wage too. Uh, they are Canadian minimum wage, I think last I checked was, in dollars, in US dollars, 17.70 an hour. Big difference. If you bring up people, all people, and give them a real living wage, there's no reason for them to be on services, right? Because they can live.
This is what the government wants, right? This is what Republicans and Democrats want. Keep keep people down, keep people on social services, and then blame them for everything that happens. Right? It's a blame game,
There
right?
you
So that
go.
they don't actually have to bear any responsibility for their actions, right? It gives them somebody to blame because it's so much easier blaming poor people for things than it is to blame the wealthy, right, for extracting wealth and resources from our economy and our country and not giving anything back, right? We don't
And
want to look at
keeping
that.
those people poor. They're the reason why we have such an increase in poverty.
Class
So,
warfare has already been waged. It's
yes.
already been waged, and it's been waged for a long time. No Democrat, no poor person, nobody on the internet is sitting here saying anything new, right, when it comes to a wealth tax or this idea that somehow, we wanna tax the wealthy, or that we're creating this class warfare, right? It's not. It's already here. It's
It's
already
already
been
here.
declared,
Long.
right? The only people that aren't fighting it are us.
So consider this your call to arms.
Wake
The
up.
one th- yeah, wake up,
Wake
America. This is the time, and this is, I'm just going to remind you all again. This is the year that we got to make our vote matter. We need to get out and communicate with each other and talk about this. Talk about situations. If you have like a Amazon warehouse or some other warehouse, take a real look at the breaks they're trying to get from their townships, from your town, because you are going to have to pick up that difference. So think about that. It costs you money. So that's what we're here to do, keep you informed. It's not just here at our local town, it's happening in towns across America. All right? And so we're going to wind up here, and we will, cuz we've run a little longer than expected, but
Yes. We
I
were
think
meant to
this was an
keep this short and sweet, but we didn't.
yeah. But no, I think it's an important conversation, and I'm glad we had it. So, you know what? Give us your opinions. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you think we should bring the minimum wage back? How do you feel about having these businesses come into your small town and then take advantage of all your resources and all tax breaks? How do you feel about that? Leave a comment.
And a
Let us
wealth
know.
tax. Where do you
And
where do you stand on a wealth tax?
what 35% minimum. All right, guys. We will be back with another episode soon. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when new videos drop. As I said before, leave a comment. And don't forget, Tuesdays is our live stream. Give us some suggestions that you might want to talk about. We definitely want to see more engagement. Or if you want to see us live at all, let us know. All right. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys.
Peace out.